The lost myth of the Skyfire. A fire from the heavens grants immortality. Elias had always been drawn to forgotten texts, ancient scripts that whispered the secrets of civilizations long past. As an ambitious young scholar in the bustling city of Ithron, he often found himself buried beneath piles of dusty scrolls, deciphering the cryptic symbols that once told the stories of kings, wars, and gods. But it was a single legend, hidden deep within the archives of the Temple of Solomon, that would change his life forever. One rainy evening, when the world outside seemed to dissolve into the mist, Elias stumbled upon an old manuscript, its cover worn with age and its pages tinged with the scent of something ancient. It was unlike any text he had ever encountered. The myth spoke of a fire that fell from the heavens every 1,000 years, a celestial flame known as Skyfire. It was said to grant immortality to those who were worthy to touch it. But there was a warning, a hidden clause buried in the footnotes of the manuscript. The fire grants eternal life, but at a price. No soul who has sought it has returned unscathed. The words haunted him. Immortality. The concept had always been elusive, an ungraspable dream that only the gods could touch. But now, this myth, this fabled Skyfire, seemed tangible. Could it really exist? And if so, could he be the one to find it? Elias could not ignore the pull of the legend. As a scholar, he was driven by the thirst for knowledge, and this discovery was too profound to ignore. He knew that embarking on such a journey could cost him everything, but the allure of unlocking the secrets of the Skyfire overwhelmed his hesitation. In the deepest recesses of his mind, he dared to dream of immortality, not for power or riches, but for the knowledge and wisdom that could be gained over centuries of life. The next morning, Elias gathered his things. His mentor, Professor Lillian, watched him silently as he prepared for the journey. She was an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, a scholar who had spent a lifetime studying ancient myths herself. She was well aware of the dangers of chasing fables, having seen too many eager young minds consumed by their quests for the unattainable. "Where are you going, Elias?" she asked quietly. "The Skyfire," he replied, not meeting her gaze as he stuffed a map into his satchel. "I have to find it. I have to see for myself if it's real." Professor Lillian shook her head slowly. "You've read the myths, Elias. You know the stories. Those who seek the Skyfire never return the same. Some never return at all." "I have to know," he insisted, his voice firm despite the pang of doubt that settled in his chest. Her eyes softened, but her words were resolute. "Some things are better left undiscovered. If you find it, Elias, what will you become? Immortality is a burden for few can bear it." But Elias was already too far gone. He had to find the fire. The promise of eternal life, even if only for a moment, was too great to ignore. And so, with a heavy heart, he bid farewell to his mentor, not knowing whether it would be forever. The first days of Elias's journey were spent in the thick forests bordering the city. The map was old, its ink fading, but it spoke of a hidden temple where the Skyfire was said to rest. The forest was dense, the trees ancient, their roots twisting like veins in the earth. Strange sounds filled the air, rustling leaves, creaking branches, and distant calls from unseen creatures. But Elias pressed on, guided only by the map and his insatiable curiosity. As he traveled deeper into the wilderness, the days grew colder. The sun seemed to disappear earlier, and the nights grew long and restless. One evening, as the sky shifted from dusk to night, Elias encountered a figure. A man, draped in tattered robes, appeared from the shadows. His eyes were sunken, his skin pale, but there was something in his gaze that both terrified and intrigued Elias. "I know why you're here," the man said, his voice rasping, like dry leaves blowing in the wind. "You seek the Skyfire, don't you?" Elias felt a chill run down his spine. "Who are you?" The man smiled grimly. "Call me Kalen. I've seen the fire, and it's not what you think. It's a curse, not a blessing. Many have come before you, seeking immortality. All have failed." Elias's hand instinctively gripped the map in his pocket. "You've seen it? You know where it is?" "I've seen its consequences," Kalen replied darkly. "The Skyfire demands a sacrifice. What will you give, scholar, in exchange for immortality? Your soul? Your memories? Your very humanity?" Elias hesitated. Could it be true? Was the fire really a curse? Or was Kalen simply trying to scare him away? "I'll decide when I get there," Elias said firmly, though doubt gnawed at him. Kalen's eyes softened, as though he pitied Elias. "Then go. But know this, you may never return the same if you return at all." Days later, Elias arrived at the fabled temple. It stood against a cliffside, ancient stone walls carved with intricate symbols that seemed to pulse with a faint light. The air here was thick with an otherworldly energy. It was as if the temple itself was alive, breathing, waiting for someone to enter. The path leading to the temple was treacherous. Cracks in the stone threatened to swallow him whole, and a strange wind howled around him, pushing him backward. But Elias pressed on, his heart set on the fire that promised immortality. As he entered the heart of the temple, his breath caught in his throat. There, in the center of the chamber, was the Skyfire. It was like nothing he had ever seen. Its flames glowed with an ethereal blue light, dancing and shifting in patterns that seemed to form faces, places, and moments from different times. The fire was beautiful, almost hypnotic, and Elias found himself drawn to it. But as he stepped closer, the temperature increased. The air around him crackled with power. His heart raced. This was it. The moment that could change everything. Just as Elias reached out to touch the fire, a voice echoed through the chamber, loud and clear in his mind. "The fire does not give without a price." The flames flickered, and a sharp pain shot through his chest. Elias fell to his knees, gasping for breath. The fire swirled, taking on the form of a spectral figure, a being of light and shadow, a creature that had lived for eons. Its voice was like thunder in his mind. "You seek immortality, but immortality is a lie. The fire grants what it wills, and it demands a sacrifice in return. Are you willing to pay the price?" Elias struggled to speak, his body racked with pain. "What price?" he gasped. "The price of your soul," the figure replied. "The price of your humanity. To gain eternity, you must lose everything that makes you mortal." Suddenly, Elias understood. The fire didn't give immortality freely. It consumed what was precious. And in that moment, Elias was faced with a choice: take the fire and lose himself forever, or walk away and preserve the life he knew. Elias stumbled backward, his thoughts swirling. His hand hovered over the fire, but he couldn't bring himself to touch it. The power, the allure, was undeniable, but the cost was too great. He remembered the faces of those he loved, his mentor, Professor Lillian, the people who had helped him become who he was. What would they think of him if he sacrificed everything for the promise of immortality? With great effort, Elias withdrew his hand. "I refuse," he whispered. The fire flared one last time, as if to protest, then began to dim. The figure's voice softened. "You are wise, scholar. Immortality is not meant for mortals, but in your refusal, you have gained something far greater than you know. Elias emerged from the temple, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on his chest. The fire was gone, and so was the temptation. He had chosen to live a mortal life, to embrace the fleeting beauty of existence rather than the hollow eternity offered by the Skyfire. When he returned to Ithron, he shared his tale with Professor Lillian, who listened in stunned silence. Elias had learned the true nature of immortality. It was not a gift, but a curse. The fire, the Skyfire, was not meant for anyone, and those who sought it were never the same. As Elias resumed his work, writing down the story of his journey, he felt a sense of peace. He had chosen the fleeting beauty of life over the hollow eternity that the Skyfire had promised, and he knew that it was the right choice.